Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about the Sony ZV-1F, the most affordable camera in Sony's lineup. Now, this is by no means a new release. This has actually been out for almost a year now. The reason I picked it up was actually because of other reviews. This received a lot of criticism, some of which I felt was a little too harsh for an entry-level budget camera. So I picked it up and I brought it with me on a few trips over the past 10 months. And I've got to say, this is a very solid camera, not just for beginners. So with all that being said, let's get started. So first off, let's talk about the overall build and design of the ZV-1F. So it has a plastic exterior, which doesn't feel the most premium, but it doesn't feel cheap either. It still feels very well made. And it's actually one of the reasons why this thing is so light, weighing only 254 grams, making it ideal for traveling. Now, the overall design is pretty much identical to the Sony ZV-1, except for the fixed 20mm prime lens that has a filter thread, so no built-in ND filters for the ZV-1F. But when it comes to the button layout, the fully articulating screen, the port availability, it is pretty much identical. So let's get into what matters most about a camera, the image quality. Let's start with video. So the Sony ZV-1F is advertised as a vlogging camera because it's small, it's lightweight, and it's capable with the new fixed 20mm prime to get you started on your content creation journey. But as much as I want to agree that this is a great little vlogging camera, I don't want it to be reduced to just that, because this camera packs quite a bit of a punch. So let's get into the menu a little bit. So you can shoot 4K up to 30 frames per second with two record modes, 60 Mbps and 100 Mbps. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically the quality of the resolution that you choose. So if you want the best results, go with 100 Mbps. But I do have to note that you need a faster SD card for this to work. For full HD, you can shoot 24p all the way up to 120 frames per second for some super slow motion shots with two record options as well. But this time it's 25 Mbps and 50 Mbps. So again, the higher, the better. So I've been able to travel quite a bit in the past 10 months, and I've got to say, the Sony ZV-1F did a fantastic job as a vlogging/travel camera. My settings were mostly 4K 24p 100 Mbps and the standard color profile. I did use an ND filter for most of it. I did shoot with image stabilization as well, so that adds in quite a bit of a crop to the 20mm lens. It turns into about 24, which is still plenty wide, but if you want the widest shot possible, you need a tripod. So overall, for the image quality, I was really impressed. You get great 4K video and you get good 1080p slow-mo shots if you need it. Also, I didn't get any overheating warnings while I was shooting here in the Philippines, as well as in Bali and in Singapore, which are very hot and humid countries. So yeah, that's a plus. Here are some more sample shots. So the stabilization on the ZV-1F isn't the best, but it works if you work with it. So that includes things like doing the ninja walk and just trying to reduce as much shake as possible, as well as shooting in a higher frame rate, like 60 frames per second. With that, you can get some pretty solid results. But apart from using it outside, like vlogging, this can also be a really good camera for an at-home YouTube setup. So I was able to use it as my main camera for a podcast episode. I've used it as an overhead camera for an unboxing video, as well as a B camera for another video, and it did Great. Now the autofocus can be a little spotty for those kinds of things, like the overhead shot and the B cam. So you have to go into the different autofocus modes and find what's right for you. But overall, I think the autofocus is something you can definitely work with. And maybe you also want to start streaming. You can easily plug this into your computer via the USB-C port and use it as a webcam. No additional equipment needed, plus you get all the manual controls, which is awesome. The only odd thing is that it can only output in 720p, which is weird, but yeah, I would still say that the quality is still much better compared to the 1080p webcams your laptop comes with. Now, the only bad thing I can say about the ZV-1F is the optical zoom. I would just stay away from it if you're shooting video because it completely trashes the image, but it seems to work for photo. Now, in terms of the image quality for photos, I would say that I was a little unimpressed. And I wouldn't say that the photos were bad. I would even say they're pretty good, but there's just nothing special about the photos. There's not much difference if you're using your iPhone or something like that. So yeah, maybe I'm just biased as a Fujifilm shooter, but yeah, the wide 20mm focal length is great for travel photos. But the biggest complaint on the ZV-1F when it comes to shooting stills is the fact that you can only shoot in JPEG, so no RAW. Now, personally, I don't really care about that, and I don't think people who want to buy this camera will care as well because it is a $500 camera. But I understand the frustration that comes with not being able to, completely edit the photos the way RAW photos can. But yeah, it just doesn't bother me that much. So now let's go over what I think are some of the best features of the Sony ZV-1F after having used it for a year now. So the 20mm focal length is the main selling feature of this camera because the Sony ZV-1 had a focal range of 24 to 70, which after the crop for stabilization, it turns into around 28. So it becomes fairly tight for vlogging. Now 20mm is where you want to be because it's able to capture so much into the frame even after the crop for stabilization, and it's great for this specific size and its specific price point. So for context, this is my Fujifilm X-S10 with my Viltrox 13mm. So after the crop, it's around 20mm as well. So the same focal length, but you can see that the difference in size is pretty dramatic. So I've always considered my X-S10 to be a compact mirrorless camera, but even with this setup, it gets pretty awkward when you're vlogging outside. So especially for the first timers, it's going to be great to have something so small and so inconspicuous that can shoot very wide. Also, it's about double in price as well. So yeah. I was really impressed with the 4K image quality that I got from the Sony ZV-1F. It really didn't feel like I was shooting on a budget camera, which is great. The footage came out very crisp and sharp. But again, I do have to know that you have to learn how to properly expose your image and stuff like that to get the best image possible. But personally, I thought the image quality was great. Now, I feel like one of the most intimidating things of starting something new is trying to figure things out. It can get very frustrating and you just might end up quitting much earlier than expected. That's what I really enjoyed about the Sony ZV-1F is how easy it is to navigate the camera. This is my very first Sony camera as well, so I tried to look at it through the eyes of a beginner and it was great. So you have different modes here to help guide you if you don't know much about cameras. You have background defocus mode for that cinematic bokeh, you have product showcase, you have your S&Q modes for easy time lapses and slow motion clips. You have different filters to choose from if you don't want to get into color grading just yet, and you can automatically get vertical content without having to adjust it in post just by, just filming like this, which is great. It really is a no fuss, no frills, just get started camera. So overall, I think Sony ZV-1F deserves way more than the hate that it got. I think it's a great camera for people who want to start out, especially with the deals that you get for the holidays. I think it's about $100 cheaper. So yeah, even better. But it's not just a great beginner's camera, it's also a great B cam if you already have your main camera. You know, it's a good overhead camera. It's a good camera to stick on like a dash in your car if you want to get those kinds of shots. There's just a whole lot more that you can do with this than with a heavy camera. So that is pretty much that for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any more questions about the ZV-1F, leave a comment down below and I will try my best to get to you. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next one.